power line route. 350 at 5, clear takeoff runway 36.
Clear takeoff 36, Yankee.
So, I promised you we'd do some little bit of autopilot business here.
Yep.
Okay, so with the Deer Autopilot, the line below your GPS status line is the line to monitor, right? So basically think of it as another body in the plane. You have to monitor it and make sure it does what you need it to do. First thing we're going to do is set what we want it to do. So in this case, we want to hold an altitude, so you hit the ALT button on the left-hand side there. Okay, we hit a button. We kind of hope for it. There we go. Make sure it hits. Right now it's holding altitude, whatever it was. Okay, that's fine, and it's holding roll. I want it to follow a GPS path, so you're gonna hit nav. All right, there you go. Notice that the flight director, the purple bars should show you where it goes, right? So even if the autopilot's not engaged, if you set up that line, the purple line is gonna show you where you're gonna be, okay? Once everything looks good like that, you can hit the AP button, and it takes it from there. All right. Now, if we wanna be kind of picky, we wanna be at 8,000 exactly. So we've given it a target, right? So that's why the sequence is always going to be bugs, buttons, and then babysit, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say if we wanted to go up to 8,200, set your bug first to 8,200, and give it a way to get there. You have two options: vertical speed or flight level change. Typically, you want to use flight level changes because in the event of an engine failure, then it's not going to try and pitch you into a stall. Okay, so you get flight level change. What it's going to do, again, 139, it shows you a bug there, so it's just going to grab whatever you're currently doing. Okay. If you want to make that a climb rate, so you can get nose up, those are the two button. Yep, and that will decrease it. You can bring it down to 120 knots or something like that. Yeah, so if you press and don't go down 100, or press and hold too, it will cycle as you hold it.
You will increase the vertical speed.
Well, the vertical speed is whatever the vertical speed is going to be, right? Because you're asking it to hold an airspeed rather than a rate of climb.
Gotcha.
All right.
This is significant if you're trying to hit VX or VY, I guess.
Oh yeah, like you're always going to use some sort of flight or Mach level change, right?
That's based on speed.
Yeah. Okay, so you're at 8,200. Notice it beeped you, of course. That's the 200. Now, if you want to go down, you can use a speed change, but it gets a little bit weird because then you're doing extra throttle management. So if you want to go back down to 8,000, first set your bug. Okay, then set to vertical speed, so VS, and then use the nose down to set a, let's say, a 200 or 300 feet per minute vertical speed descent. Okay. So the reason we always say set bugs first is that let's say you didn't set your bug down to 8,000 and you just hit vertical speed, I'll look at it later. Without the bug, it's just going to keep going right into the ground. Okay, so we set the limit, set how you want it to get there, and then make sure it actually does it. Okay.
Yeah.
As you get close to a target, what you should see is that's going to start to flash and say, hey, look, I'm going to switch from vertical speed mode into the altitude hold mode.
So what you're trying to say is, let's say we're level off at 8,000, right?
Yep.
And then we didn't change anything from the altitude, and then we start pressing down.
Yep.
It's gonna go down.
Right into the ground.
Gotcha.
Bad place to be. Okay. Now, if they put you on vectors, of course, you just use heading mode. So you'd hit the heading mode. Hit the heading mode.
Heading.
Verify it when heading, which it did, and then you can use a heading bug to go left or right or whatever you like. So let's go left to a heading of 210, let's say. Okay. Notice the flight moves the flight director, and the plane tries to catch up with the flight director.
The pink, the magenta is the flight director, right?
Yeah. All right. So just to simulate, so let's say the air traffic took you in vectors for a while, and they put you way over, I don't know, here. Okay. Okay. So they said, Roger, proceed on course. Okay. So you're like, okay, great.
Proceed on course, yeah.
Right.
So gas mode.
So here's the thing: if you just hit GPS again, so if you go back to nav mode. Notice what it does now. It just goes white GPS. Mm-hmm. So what is that telling you, do you think?
It's not active.
It's not, because you're so far deflected, there's no way for it to know how to get there. Mm-hmm. So we can do one of two things. You can either hit direct enter again, and it's going to redraw the line right now, because right now your line is way behind you, or you could simply heading bug it into the actual course, and then it'll capture and follow.
Or intercept.
Or intercept, right? Now in this case, you were told to proceed on course, so the correct action would be direct enter. Okay, as soon as you do that, boom, flashes green for the mode change. Okay, it's capturing.
It's no longer heading.
Following. Right? So it's always go back and verify. There are times where you're going to think you hit the button, or you might double hit it and things like that. Just make sure that does what you want.
What's BC?
Back course. Localizer back courses, which there's one in Canada, I think. There's a military airdo.
People not use.
So, okay, so that's how that works. Okay. The other things that we'll be dealing with too are approach coupled, right? So when we have any sort of vertical guidance, okay. Yeah, there is LNAV, and I'm talking more LPV and ILS glide depth, okay? So if you just hit APR right now, for instance. APR for approach mode, okay? Notice it doesn't do much, right? The reason is because as far as this is concerned, GPS is the lateral navigation of our nav approach and doesn't know what you want. We have no approach loaded. We have nothing to do, okay? So, this is going to make it mad for a second, but I'm just going to throw it to heading mode. If, however, this is why the heading mode should stay centered. If, however, you were over on, let's say, an ILS or something like that, and you hit APR, it will select a mode which it thinks is appropriate for whatever, right? So that APR button can do many things depending on what mode you're in, okay? So it's not necessarily one thing, unlike the VS and altitude. All those things kind of do one thing. The APR will change depending on what we do, okay? So you get it back, it'd be a CDI, and then back to nav mode. Nav mode's captured, it's going to follow. Okay? So that's one way to get it to do things. Okay, it makes life easy, as you can imagine, as far as...
I mean, it makes your life easy once you get the hang of it,
yeah.
Otherwise...
Right. We will go through next time all the G1000 gotchas, especially in the flight training environment, because airports are so close together.
This is VNAV, vertical navigation.
Yeah. That's if you have something programmed in here, and as an advisory altitude. Okay. So, let's talk about other fun things in G1000 world. Okay, so we're heading to Tofina. I don't know. Winds are as they left it. What runway do you want to land? You said you're going to land...
Oh, same runway.
Okay, so let's bring up that chart. Let's load and brief that chart because we've got plenty of time and this thing's just going to go. So let's load it up and I'll show you a couple other things. Then.
Procedures. Approach.
Yeah. So sometimes the G1000 will offer you things which actually aren't on the approach plates.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't change anything on the plate per se. It might give you some extra help on the way down.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. So you'd like to go VS, that's where we're going. Yeah. All right. Now minimums. This is another bug you can set to make your life easy. So if you move that over to barrel, and then you go one more time, you'll actually see where it says temperature compensation. So you can actually dial in temperature compensation directly into this thing.
Interesting. What's the existing temperature in Tofino?
Right now it's 3 degrees, right? But for instance, just for example purposes, so if you go up and actually
temperature, what?
Yeah. So I just go up to footage. So dial in your actual minimum of what you want bugged.
Starting to feel like a video game.
Oh, it is. It's basically getting it.
The gamers will look down on us.
Right. And then what's going to happen is that when you hit your cold weather temperature, you notice how it italicizes the item in there, and then it gives you the actual cold weather number on it. Okay. So if you load that up, okay, and then that's all set for us. Okay. So far it doesn't show you anything on the screen, which is kind of to be expected. Now, let's say that you did that and you're on a long 4-hour trip and then you find out the temperature's changed or no longer applies, okay? You can change that value without going back and reloading the entire approach. That is in the TMR ref button, so i.e. the reference button, okay? Notice down below is what we just all dialed in, okay? So this also means that you can set the altitude, that approach bug, completely separate of the approach. Okay, so if you didn't have temperature anymore, you can go up and instead of temperature compensated, you can just go one left barrel, and then it gets rid of that, and then just hit TMR ref again to get rid of it. That's it.
Oh, you don't need to enter it?
No, this one's an oddity in that. Now, when we actually come down on the approach, once the approach is active, what you're going to see is that there's going to be a little window that's going to pop up right there that gives you the altitude to which you set there. And then just like the blue bug, there's going to be another blue bug that shows you the MDA.
Makes your life easy.
It does.
Yeah.
Right? And that allows us to have those visual indications, whereas the autopilot can work off your altitude bug and other things like that, right? You don't have to worry about it. Okay? All right, so we got talking there. I'm going to freeze this in spot. And because we are pretty darn close to SIGEX, we have to ask for an approach here. So you can give me a, what would you say? It's an old Victoria Terminal.
Or Vancouver Center.
Or, I guess I forgot to switch it in there. Fox Whiskey, contact Vancouver Center 1329er.
Switch to Vancouver Center 1329er. Echo Fox Whiskey. Vancouver Center, this is Vancouver Whiskey inbound for Arnav runway 29.
Guys will be requesting RNAV 29 SIGEX transition.
SIGEX transition.
And Fox Whiskey, Roger, you're clear at the RNAV 29 SIGEX transition.
Clear to SIGEX and Fox Whiskey.
Okay, it's clear RNAV 29 SIGEX. Parrot it all back.
Clear Arnav 29 SIGEX transition.
Procedure, activate approach. Boom. Okay, sequence easy in there. Fantastic. All right, and just because we were tracking, I'm going to say, okay, Fox Whiskey, Roger, contact Hardy Radio 12325.
Switching to Hardy Radio 12325, Echo Fox Whiskey.
All right. Okay, I have frozen you laterally so you're not moving because, of course, when we come over here, SIGEX, we're 5 minutes from SIGEX, which is the start of your approach. So now we need the actual approach call for it. After the EMF. All right.
Yeah, so call Hardy Radio basically.
All right. So what's that gonna sound like?
Hardy Radio, this is Foxtrot Whiskey inbound for runway 2, Arnav runway 29.
SIGEX transition.
SIGEX transition.
All right.
You don't need to say how far you are, right?
All right, so I'm going to get to that in a second. So if you are in a hard IMC day and there's no VFR traffic, then that will probably suffice just perfectly fine, okay? However, we do need to state other things for them. So it would be Hardy Radio Foxtrot Whiskey, 8,000 level, RNAV 29, and we also have to include our estimated time of arrival. Okay, so this can come off of this screen, right? So if we scroll down, once you have the approach activated, it actually gives you a cumulative time and then the actual estimated time of arrival.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Hardy Radio Foxtrot Whiskey is approaching SIGEX RNAV 29. Will be wheels down 1517.
Expecting ETA 15170.
That's applied to it. It's everything aviation service. Okay, so that's that. Now, that's great for IMC. If you are, however, on a hard VMC day, you now just made a radio call to which absolutely no one knows where you are.
Yeah.
Right? That's when we're generally going to have to include some sort of distance.
Yeah,
Okay.
like 4 minutes to SIGEX.
Again, minutes doesn't mean anything to anyone because they don't know how fast you are, they don't know what you are, right? The poor little VFR guy is 152 doing circuits at Tofino. Doesn't mean anything to him.
They don't even know what the
They don't even know what it's saying. So, a couple of tricks we can do. So I need to know the distance to the runway, basically, right? Direct line. So all these distances you see here are cumulative. So they're going add. Doesn't help me. We have to be careful in this because we can screw something up. If we just hit select runway, hit direct, it actually tells you the direct distance. Okay. Now if we hit enter, we screw ourselves.
Yep.
You have to hit clear. All right?
Yep.
So if this was a VFR day, this would be the call I'd be making. Maybe Hardy Radio, Foxtrot Whiskey, 8,000 level, 43 miles to the east, inbound RNAV 29, and we'll be wheels down at 1518. Okay. Something we will have to do around this area because oftentimes we'll be flying VFR into Joseph and places like that. Yeah, there's a lot of student pilots up there as well.
So Hardy Radio, this is for Echo Foxtrot Whiskey level at 8,000. We are again. We are 44 miles east of the runway. We expect touchdown by 1518.
Okay. All right. Yeah, definitely clear on that. Okay. Time to unfreeze it. So you can imagine if you're doing this flight for real, I didn't really. That was a pretty quick transition. It's like boom, Nanaimo, on your way. Now you got 5 minutes to go, and then you're there suddenly. Right? So it can get kind of busy. So what altitude can I descend to now that I've been cleared set approach?
5,000. 1 second. You need to see. You need to check CX. What am I looking at? The transition.
Yeah. So look for RNAV 29. Good. All right. So can I go down yet?
No.
No.
7,500.
Yeah, we gotta wait a bit. So. Okay, so it gives us it gives us 3 minutes, about 4 minutes to brief the approach.
So we are landing on runway 29. This was published effective April 22nd, 2021.
Checked.
Minimum 100 nautical miles, 10,000. From where we be coming from, 7,500. MDA 620.
Okay, so just the one in the intermediate altitude. So good job. 10,000, 7,500. As soon as I cross CGAG, I can go down to 5. Right.
Can go down to 5. And the minimum will be 620. Radio center. And then audio radio.
Yeah.
Onwards. What's the D?
I'm sorry.
What's the D on onwards?
AM or TS.
That's how we read this, right?
AM, OR. So the O is overshoot.
Oh, overshoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, overshoot. So miss approach, climb left turn to 2,900, direct to AdBob, shuttle to 4,000 before proceeding on course.
Okay, and what kind of hold entry is that going to be?
Direct entry, non-standard turn.
You got it. All right. So the only thing we didn't do is just verify load, right? So when we talk about the approach, yes, the RNAV 29, 22nd of April 21, our sequence should be, and this is the way you're going to look, should see SIGEX, Rollboo, Fanny, EPSIC, and runway 29, right? So you're just verifying the load in the actual database is all there.
Yep.
Good. So everything's there, it's in sequence, no surprises. We are set. So let's see if we can, when appropriate, we can use, in 1 minute and 54 seconds, we'll use our automation to help us on this one. So, this comes back to the topic of minimums engagement altitude. So, it's said that you cannot have the autopilot on any lower than what, unless you're on an actual helpful approach.
On cruise?
Yeah.
1,000.
1,000, right? So we gotta be careful we don't, we don't necessarily have vertical navigation per se. There's no LPV or anything, so we're not necessarily on approach profile here, but got plenty of room to go below. We don't have to worry about turning that thing off.
Yep.
Okay.
And 200 on that day.
Yeah. So basically the Cat 1 ILS.
Yeah. Cat 2 is 100 and then Cat 3 is 600. This?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, you're not seeing anything as a bang runways there. Thanks.
I saw a video last night of Cat 3 there in Auto Land as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's not even, doesn't seem like 600 feet visibility actually.
Basically, you're flying blind.
Scary.
Well, yeah, but if you're coming from halfway around the world, you kind of do need to land someplace.
Yeah, because you don't have much fuel, basically.
Well, you think of how many alternate airports. I mean, if you need 10,000 feet of runway because you're something that weighs 700,000 pounds, like where are you going to go?
Yeah.
You're only taking as much fuel as you need. You don't want to be hauling around all that gas. No. All right.
So can you send to 5,000 in 20 seconds.
There you go.
So you can set this up.
Correct.
What's FLC?
Flight level change, or airspeed set, basically. So vertical speed to go down. So go vertical speed to down, for down, down, down. So yes. So vertical speed mode.
Oh,
Set. Yeah, to go down, yeah.
Yep.
So we're gaining airspeed. There's really no danger of us pitching into a stall going down. So give yourself a good 500 feet per minute, right? Because we do have to close off. And this is where we're kind of thinking of 15 miles to shed 2,000 feet. We're doing, 14 miles in 6 minutes. So we do need a decent, not a silly rate of descent, but a decent one.
So to roll
Okay, next rated call for an MF is where?
13 miles. Watch across. Watch IAF.
Well, even before, once we turn final approach course, right? So as soon as you get to roll boot, it's going to be on a, hey, we're on a, in this case, a 20-mile final. Then your FAF, a Fanny, and then on the approach. So I got a couple more to do.
So basically, the call will be like Hardy radio. This is Echo Foxtrot Whiskey 5,000 overall inbound for our North primary tonight.
Yeah, again, we're going to make it, we could VFR it as well. It'll be,
They don't know where.
We're on a 20-mile final for runway 29.
The roll blue is what's this? 15.
20.
Yeah, 19.7. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a decent straight in final.
And then with this, it's not logical for you to slow down with this distance. And
No,
set
with
up.
this distance, you still want to establish a constant descent rate. So when are you going to start to descend? If you maintain 5,000, you're going to start your descent at how many miles back?
15.3.
All right. Where do we see that number is the next question. Where are we going to see 15 miles back from the runway?
The one that we did earlier.
Yeah, so actually over here, right? So it's cumulative distance, so you'd be looking at that guy right there.
15, yeah.
Okay. So again, 16 miles back, get yourself configured, stable, and then down.
Yeah, the reason why it's this figures, we're not looking at it earlier, it's because we're off. Right?
Yeah, until you activate the approach, it's not going to give you the numbers for it.
Gotcha. Or this.
Yeah, or that. Do that too. Again, this one's an easy one because the final reference is actually the runway, so you have a marker on there, but that's not always going to be the case.
Yesterday we did like 1 mile. That's when we put the 16 inches.
Yep.
But with this, since
Same
we're too
idea.
far. Oh,
Same idea, like you're starting a constant descent from 5,000 just to give everyone descent. That's all it's doing. Right. Again, in IFR, especially IMC, you're looking to be stable, as in you're not screwing with anything for at least 1,000 feet. But I mean, if you're going to make it easy on yourself, if you can stabilize yourself further back, great.
gotcha.
Now, of course, that only works so well until terminal tells you to speed up or something like that. But be ashamed to have a nice stable approach just to mess it all up and then have to go around because we lose everything.
So with that, since we're too far and we want to be slow, what's the target? Are we trying to aim for 90? Or
Yeah, so about number 95-ish. Yeah.
15 miles, 90.
Get yourself nice and stable all the way down.
So do we disengage the autopilot?
We can still use it actually, right? So that's the nice thing is that we're establishing a vertical speed. We don't have to turn it off because we're still way up there height-wise. You can actually set a vertical speed mode and then have it fly the majority of this down for you. Again, it's going to trim you and everything, so when you take it off autopilot, you just have to maintain. Okay, we are coming up to Rollview in 36 seconds. We're not at altitude yet, so let's slow down already.
So slow down.
Well, bring yourself back here because if you put nose down, you just have a whole bunch more speed. We don't want that. And when you start flying something that's less direct, this becomes a major problem. Whereas, like, yeah, you can get to altitude, but you're going to pick up so much speed you can't kick your flaps down, and then what? All right. So here we go around the roll.
With minimal airspeed change, we can just touch the manifold and
Yeah, generally
disregard
props
the
don't move usually for most of the flight. In a normal flight, only change it 3 times after takeoff, at cruise, and then approaching landing.
So we should be saying that Hardy Radio, this is Echo Foxtrot Whiskey, 5,300, descending to 5,000, over Rollview, 18 miles.
Yeah, I would leave out the altitudes, right? I'd say returning final approach course at 20 miles for an F29. Alright, got 17 to go. We're looking good now. So now the next task is to bleed that speed so we can actually get gear and things down. Which should work out fairly decently in this one. So I got 17 to go.
So you want to slow down?
Yeah, we definitely need to. If you set your 20 inches or less, that should get you out of your extension speed. Alright, coming up to 16. And here we go, 1 mile to go. So, 16 inches. Check and call, gear below 140, I'm decreasing gear down.
Below 140, gear down.
And inside of 15, so let's start vertical speed down 500 feet per minute and flaps. Yep. And 500 feet per minute down. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we're just monitoring. Next call.
We're heading to Tanny.
Yeah, the next call is going to be at Tanny.
On the flat test, we were better off above the limit than below, right?
Yeah, we need to be above, right? So this is where we can get a little slow. So doing our guns before landing checks, we're on our way down anyway. So
Sure. So gun check, gas, undercarriage, 3 greens, 1 in mirror. Make sure. Ups, pull forward. Switches, fuel pump. Everything's
landing light to make yourself bright and beautiful.
landing light on.
And then just get a little more power in there to keep yourself above 90 knots. And now we just wait. Checking distances and altitudes to make sure things are making sense. So 10 miles back, we should be around 3,400, something like that.
Yeah.
So we're smidgen on the high side, so we can put the nose down 1, and you can pull back the throttle, right? Because that's just going to make you go faster to maintain your airspeed. Okay, next checkpoint's going to be 9, that's going to be 3,009. Altitude bug goes away because look what's happened. Now it's stopping you at.
How do you remove the bug again?
Okay, so keep the bug at your missed approach altitude, 4,000. Alright, so you see what's happened? It's because of stopping altitude, now your airspeed's bleeding and then everything's going to hell, right? So, gotta get on top of that, vertical speed down. Okay, altitude bug's gotta be out of here. Okay, so our missed approach altitude was 4,000. So remember, that altitude bug's going to stop you, and that's going to pitch you to maintain altitude, and that's going to bleed your speed, and then stall.
So what you did is override it.
Just vertical speed down, right? You got to get it out of mode, which is why you're always monitoring that line, because anything beeps or flashes, your eyes automatically go up there and say, "What are you doing?" Right? Unless you expect it. Okay, so we passed 90. So, what are you saying? Hardy radio?
Hardy radio, this is Echo Foxtrot Whiskey. 7 miles in, east of the runway, inbound.
Like we're south now. Or east now. Oh, someone moved this track up. Alright, is IMC, are you radio Foxtrot Whiskies? Right now, tuna. Fanny inbound. Alright, how we doing?
We're pretty high.
Okay. Coming up to 6 miles back. 6 miles back should be 2,000. That's a nice round checkpoint.
6 miles, 2,000.
Yeah, we're getting there. A little fast, so half an inch change. Let it settle for now. Remember, you're just gonna if you're close, that's all that matters, right? You don't want to be like 300 or 400 feet off the line, but you want to be pretty darn close. Okay, there's 5.6. We're at 2,000. Next checkpoint, 4 miles and 1,400. So it looks like we're going to get there.
Yep.
Got a mile to go and 400 feet. Yeah, it's reasonable.
EPSIC 830.
Okay, remember this is an MDA, so do not sink a foot below that until you have the visual references required.
What's going on?
Okay, so if you're pitching up, you got a power up too, because now your airspeed's time.
What just happened there? Why did we lose the bus?
Yeah, probably because we really kind of put it down to 700+ feet per minute.
Yeah, too much.
Yeah. Shot through the bottom end of it.
1 mile. We want 800.
Okay. And as we're coming down, we're looking outside, seeing if there's any sign of ground or an airport.
No.
So I'll just pause it for your ramp a second. So, remember we bugged at altitude, so now we have an indicator that says, hey look, there's going to be a bug that's going to show up here at 620 feet. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see that kind of scroll up, and you see just the top of it right there. So as we continue our way down, so we're 1,000 a month, we're going to disconnect. We're just flying, flying, flying. There's your marker. Okay, so we're looking outside, need to get below, otherwise we can't see much. We have 2 miles from missed approach point to make an approach or landing. Okay, looking outside, oh, there's a sign of ground.
Is there?
The ground is good. No airport yet. Okay, you gotta hold that altitude on a foot below. Hold the altitude, power goes in, power attitude trim. Okay, hold, hold, hold. Holding, scanning.
Up there.
Out of runway. Visual landing and eyes outside. You're gonna finish. When you set a minimum bug, it'll yell at you for minimum